Happy to share with you some of our most recent research related to current market conditions and buyer demand. As you know, back in December of 2008, we conducted a very, very large global survey with over 1,800 completed responses that really looked on a go-forward basis what sort of adoption rates we would anticipate for software as a service solutions. And the data came back, it just blew us away in terms of even in the midst of a very, very tough economic cycle that had begun, clearly 2, 3, 4, 5 months prior to that survey, very, very strong continued bullish demand. In fact, the segments that showed the highest current adoption rates were in North America, primarily in the SMB segments, the 500 to 1,000 and the 300 to 500 employee count segments as well. But we also saw strong demand not only among the SMB segments, but large enterprise segments. It's really just a question what sort of things that they were purchasing. Are they really at the core or are they at the fringe? And as it relates to SMB customers, they're really going after core functionality, financials, HR, collaboration. Whereas for large enterprise customers, they're not quite ready for prime time for financials, but over time, clearly we will see that demand. HMRS, though, is clearly something the upper mid to large enterprise customers are very interested in. On a go-forward basis, however, the strongest demand in our research clearly was in Europe and in Asia-Pac. And in fact, demand in North America, as it relates to forecasting from this data, showed a remarkable slowdown for 2009 and 2010. And we've seen that as well in the financials, and I'll get to kind of current market conditions on Wall Street in just a moment. But in terms of future growth, clearly Europe and Asia-Pac are showing very, very, very strong purchase decision markers on a go-forward basis. And in fact, there may be a leapfrog effect occurring whereby in Asia-Pac in particular, bypassing the need to deploy more traditional on-premise solutions and going directly to on-demand solutions. Interestingly, in total, we've seen on a global basis that 29% of companies who participated in the survey indicated that they had at least one SaaS application already installed. Now, that's on a global basis. That's a very, very, very strong number. Interestingly, 2/3 of those companies already had more than one SaaS application, and half of them had indicated that they were going to be adding more SaaS applications, which to our point of view suggests very, very high satisfaction levels amongst existing SaaS solution customers. In total, we're forecasting from the data that 29% will rise somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 55% of companies through the planning horizon through 2011. So we're anticipating continued growth through the next 2 to 2.5 years as evidenced by this data. But then there's the reality of what's going on in the current economic crisis. And clearly, the SaaS companies are taking a hit just like everybody else. We recently developed 2 market baskets that I think are very illustrative of what's going on. One is a SaaS market basket, and the second is an on-prem market basket. And we looked at some public companies to see how well either of these are weathering the current economic storm. Our market basket of SaaS companies included Salesforce, Taleo, NetSuite, large, well-known public companies, Concur. And based on Wall Street analyst estimates, these companies are forecast to grow for the year at about 18%, and on the quarter in Q1 they grew at about 25%. Now this is well down from the 40 to 60% growth rates that they were experiencing, but what's more important is to look on a forward view, look at deferred revenue growth and billings growth, and here we're seeing that the SaaS companies are experiencing slower growth. Deferred revenue growth in Q1 only grew 18%, and billings growth only grew 9%. So, things are slowing down. The easiest thing for a CFO today to do is nothing, right? So the issue is, let's not get too excited about the economic benefits of SaaS, because even in a tough economic climate, people can do nothing, right? They're just delaying decisions, longer sales cycles, smaller transactions. However, clearly when you compare it to the on-premise folks that we likewise built a market basket around, total Q1 revenue growth only went up 3.7%, but new license revenue growth fell for our market basket by 14.5%. And these were companies, Oracle was in there, SAP was in there, Computer Associates was in there, Lawson, Epicor, these types of companies. If you pull out Oracle, who really is, who actually had halfway decent numbers, and if you look at a broader portfolio that were beyond just this market basket, our sense is that most on-prem players fell anywhere from 20 to 50% in terms of new license revenue growth last quarter. So on a relative basis, everybody has been impacted by the current economy, but clearly the on-prem guys have been hurt a lot worse. The good news for them is that they're coming into the recovery with very strong balance sheets. They have no debt. Many are moving to subscription models themselves. Look at Computer Associates. The issue is, will they be able to bounce back? Will users continue to deploy very, very large, more traditional on-prem new license deployments? Or are we really at the beginning of a dramatic sea change in moving forward with OnDemand? So I hope that provided some insights in terms of current market conditions. We're still very bullish on SaaS, but recognize that the current economy clearly has taken a hit on everybody. So thanks so much for having us today.